I think that's a little, or that's like something a little more landing or true. I mean, we could do something like this too, but this is also a lot of sensational. So,
Where are you from? Oh, from. I'm from Fremont.
but, how is the face? How?
It's I'm not.
I think that's something that's also
Yeah.
Yeah,
like bubble because I think. Wow, actually, yeah, no, just
I'm very
still find my
because AI can be basis. AI cannot
I want to shoot too far, but I'm actually. Yeah, I can figure out. That's why the big thing is just like saying I might just start doing language and English.
Yeah, no, I have CS.
Okay, we'll start in 5 minutes. We'll just let four more people come in and speak.
Hey, I'm gonna start making the like this like meeting now.
Yeah. You also have cyber. Moya, right? Moya?
Yeah, the same 5% first.
Have you met
If you, I don't have any questions.
Yeah,
Like
what's that?
FCU stuff, something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, okay. You guys have
What are your name, Moya?
We are AC.
a what?
I was at APM, but I don't think I'll.
I guess take it a second.
Oh, like
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going home.
It's not, I'm fine.
Yeah. Like this like an hour away from here.
Is,
Yeah,
that works on their specific like stuff data. So like, I mean, there's.
oh yeah.
No, it's not.
I'll start.
Yeah,
Like, you
but-
just need to memorize what words are there
And-
and what words are
Yeah, you need Python,
Yeah.
PyTorch,
So
and
that's not
beyond that,
super.
you can
well-
choose.
Yeah,
Like you can try pandas,
like a set of rules.
It's
but
Yeah.
Or
you can like ask questions as you go. Like you're gonna want to cover
type of words that spelled or not, and you just like look
Like,
for that is spelled right or whatever.
Yeah.
That's gonna work worse than just literal.
My lip is like.
Like a little thing, the person's
Yeah.
gonna know, yes, this is right, no, this is not. Right.
They're like.
So I think you can do that. That would actually work for an AI model. The thing is, it would probably do worse than.
Yeah.
I was
spelled
reading
right.
that back.
Oh.
Error. So that's up to you.
What's your name?
This will need to do. Yes. Yeah, so Snaggle is a really good place. There's a lot of data sets.
Yeah, I know. It's
Just looks at really different things like stars, ratings, constellation.
Yeah, yeah.
All that.
I'm gonna put it Bible.
That trust ID. I'll leave it just a second. Oh, wait.
Are you thinking of this? Nice to meet you. Remind me.
Right.
Right.
Oh, yeah. It's very similar. That makes it easy. Might just go, yeah. Yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be starting in like 3 minutes.
Oh, I just need. Or what's that stays now? The stain isn't. Yeah, there's some mental. Yeah, it's yeah. It's really so after. Jason. Can you tell me? Yeah, it's 8 months.
Okay. Let's start. So welcome to the Sky Workshops. I'm Anthony. I'm kind of the leader of these workshops and the competition. Let me just go over that real quick. So what is Sky's No Limit? It's basically two things. It's both the workshop and the competition. So you're at the workshop right now. So congratulations, you've made it. And then it's also the competition, which is where you submit an AI to that competition. You can go to just the workshops and not submit to the competition. You can just submit to the competition without ever attending a workshop. But we would strongly recommend that you both go to the workshops and then submit your AI to the competition, because in the workshops, we're going to teach you step by step, here's how you can make your own AI. And then if you've gone to the workshops, made your own AI, you might as well submit to the competition. You have a very good chance of winning some of the cash prizes. That's kind of what the goal of these workshops and our club as a whole is, to make AI much more accessible. So whether or not you have a background in programming or a background in math or computer science, whatever, you still want to be able to help everyone understand how AI works and how they can make one for themselves. And do the use of like libraries like PyTorch. This is actually a lot easier than you would think based on how people talk about AI as being a super complicated algorithm. It's actually very feasible to implement yourself on your own computer. And that's what we're going over at the workshops, kind of telling you how can you make a basic AI. In terms of the competition is make an AI under the theme. So we're going to be helping you, guiding you through that at the workshops, but specifically it has to be that you've made the AI. I mean, it's kind of obvious, but don't just copy it from online. Don't have someone else write it for you. Don't have ChatGPT write it for you. Don't ping ChatGPT, get the response, and then say, oh, this is my chatbot that I made that's super good at chatting and just happens to chat exactly like ChatGPT, right? Or if you use ChatGPT anywhere in your like flow of your code, that's not under the competition. So it has to be something you've made for this competition specifically. I think that's pretty obvious. The more limiting restriction a little bit, but it's still not very limiting, is the theme. So maybe you guys already heard, but the theme for the competition is Written in the Stars. Yeah, I already revealed this theme, so you probably guys maybe saw it on the Discord, but Written in the Stars is the theme. So you should create your AI under this theme. But that can be really, really broad. I mean, you can take anything with the word written, anything with the word stars. In previous quarters, we had the theme of Rainbow Road, and someone took the word road and interpreted it to make an AI that classified which car that they took a picture of a car and what car is this. Before that, we had hedge your bets, and we said, okay, if you make an AI about hedges, that counts. Anything you can kind of derive as being related to this phrase works. So I'll give you guys maybe talk to the people next to you. If you're not seeing someone next to you, look in front or around you and see maybe what are different ideas you could have for Written in the Stars. What do you think of when you think of written or stars? And what kind of could this theme kind of conjure up ideas of? Even if you don't have an idea for an AI specifically, just what are ideas you have based on this phrase? So just talk to people around you. Yes, please. How many you guys? What was this? What is the theme or like something new? Yeah, the whole phrase as something.
I guess like written.
I was thinking about doing like verification, right? Verification.
Yeah, with the meeting or something.
So how would that feel? Like written? Yeah, literally. But like, how would you go about it? So yeah, doing it. Because the thing is, like, you need to train the model on like specific people. Well, yeah, I already found the data set that has. So I guess like these are the writer IDs, and then they have like a prompt up here. And so I guess I'm just cropping the prompt and training those. Well, already some of them only have one entry though.
It was
So I
something
think
else.
like yeah, it's almost 1,000. Some of them have like a bunch. Okay. So it's not like maybe training like Siamese network to yeah.
Okay.
I've had trouble because I was trying to do base recommendation and I was using the Siamese network and it just did not work. Siamese network?
Which is.
It's where you can
Yeah, I'm not seriously saying. It's only every.
it's where you have like two like identical networks.
Oh.
And I don't.
Wow. This is video for my time.
Well,
Oh, I think it's. Oh.
Literally,
If it looks like this, so obviously it's a.
It's more like the Tuesday, Thursday class. Yeah. So, so much like.
This is old.
Like.
Yeah.
Crap.
Okay, I know what it is.
I just
Better ways to go about it.
Something other than.
Yeah, and I'm sitting there.
So how would you go?
5 seconds. I figure out all the tasks that I don't know. I'm like, really? Like, why did I do that?
They random stuff.
And
Okay, guys. So maybe you guys thought of some ideas. Sorry to people on Zoom. I meant to put you guys on breakout rooms, but oh well. But you guys thought of some ideas to yourself as well. So I'll just give you guys what I was thinking of when I saw this theme. I mean, I guess I came up with it, so I'm kind of cheating. But written. So I kind of look at it word by word, right? Written. What do we think of when written? I think of like handwriting. Maybe how do you analyze handwritten text and convert it into like words and stuff like that? Written, maybe stuff that's written like books or novels, looking at books that are popular, book titles, book text, book fail. That's one way you can analyze written. Written, make anything of both the text and like text prediction. One thing I would be very careful about like text prediction, like chatbots, like ChatGPT, is that OpenAI spent like $1 billion making ChatGPT, right? That costs a lot of compute time, a lot of GPUs. So I would not recommend, especially if you're a beginner, to try to make something like a chatbot like ChatGPT because it's very difficult. But that being said, there's still a lot of stuff you can do with text that's very useful. There's stuff like sentiment analysis, which analyzes what the meaning of text is. For example, is text positive? Is it negative? Is it spam? Is it not spam? Is it formal? Is it not formal? That's kind of a classification you can do on text that might be easier. Written, like I said, handwritten stuff. I don't know, you guys can probably think of more stuff. Stars makes me think of, stars in the sky, taking pictures of like astronomical photos, maybe classifying, is this a picture of a planet? Is this a picture of stars? Is this a picture of this specific planet? This is a picture of a constellation and maybe something to do with constellations. Makes me think of star signs, something to do with like, what is it? Like Virgo, Cancer, whatever, Gemini, all those kind of star signs or whatever. Maybe like a prediction, you could do fortune telling and stuff like that. Tarot cards, I think was an idea I gave out. So there's a lot of stuff you can do with stars. I think pop stars, you can do like pop stars. I mean, that's a huge category in itself. And then in the whole thing, there's written in the stars, which is like means that something is foretold to happen. So you can do something with fate, something with destiny. I don't know. Something with maybe written in the stars. Often people say their love is written in the stars. You can do something with romance or a romance novel, something with Romeo and Juliet, something with Shakespeare. Right. So you can see how like I got from, written in the stars to like Shakespeare. Stars, you can also do like star symbols, like literally the 5-pointed star. I'm sure you can think of something to do with like star shapes. I don't know, maybe I'll give you some more ideas to think about because I think it's a good idea to kind of start out with a bunch of ideas and see what kind of works well with the data sets. Okay, I again forgot. I meant to put the slide earlier, but whatever. We'll just go over it now. So this will just keep on thinking about your ideas. Meanwhile, I'll talk about the meeting, like kind of logistics and stuff. We're meeting every Friday, 1:30 to 2:30 and 2:30 to 3:30. So you guys are on the second meeting. Now, today, these two meetings were identical. So I'm presenting the same exact stuff I presented to you guys at 1:30. But typically what we'll have is we'll have the first meeting be a catch-up meeting where we'll kind of review stuff from the last week in case you missed it. And then the 2:30 meeting will be kind of going on to the next topic. So if you want, you can only come to the 1:30 or 2:30 meeting. You can only come to the 2:30, 3:30 meeting, or you can come to both. And if you come to both, you'll have more time for me and Eric and the other kind of officers of the club to help you out with your AI. Because right now I'm up here and I'm talking, right? But during a lot of these workshops, it's kind of going to be you guys kind of hands-on working. So if you come to both, you'll have more time to kind of work with us. Additionally, we hope that catch-up meeting kind of makes you feel like you can come in at any time, really. Even if you come in and you need to catch up in the second meeting, that's still totally fine. It's still free work time with us, and we can catch you up on what we went over. There's also recordings of these meetings, of these workshops. And especially if you miss like a week or two, feel free and just come to the catch-up meeting and we'll be covering those topics that you might have missed. They're also all on Google Calendar. They're kind of on Google Calendar, I just bunch them into one meeting, but because they're just back to back. But they are usually two meetings. In this case, they're the same meeting, but in future weeks, we're going to be going over kind of catch up and stuff. So it's really about making it accessible, especially if, I don't know, if any of you are freshmen, you might be getting used to the quarter system schedule. Things are going to move very quickly. So if you miss a couple of weeks, which I think happens almost every time in my experience for this competition, feel totally free to just come to a catch-up meeting and we'll review stuff. Same thing with the Sky's No Limit. So kind of similar with the Sky's No Limit submission. It's due Friday, November 29th. So that might seem like a while, like it's basically December that's due. But if you're really thinking about it, that's only 6 workshops away. Again, quarter system. So if you keep working on this, I mean, consistently, I think that's pretty easy deadline to make, right? It's pretty far away. But if you kind of leave it all till last minute, you might not be able to complete it well enough as you hope. So my advice would be to try to come consistently. And even if you miss a couple, just come to catch-ups and we'll be right there to kind of help you with that. And then as for the actual project presentation, these are super low stakes presentations. But this is kind of when you're going to be judged. So it's super important that you could make it to these, which is Wednesday, December 4th, 4 to 5 p.m. That's one day. If you can't make it, we can probably figure something out for you. But it would be really great if you could make it. Maybe just write that date down or something. But in terms of whether or not you're like, oh, do I have to come to the, by the way, I mentioned this previously, but some new people came in. If you don't have to submit if you're at the workshop, you can just be working on an AI at the workshops. It doesn't have to be for the competition, or you can submit to the competition without coming to the workshops. But obviously, we strongly recommend coming to the workshops, especially if you're a beginner, so that we can actually teach you how to make a neural network in PyTorch. So what we're making specifically is a neural network in PyTorch, and you guys will learn what that means and how to do it. And PyTorch is a library that really helps make it super simple to do. And it's actually what even huge, like, I don't know, it's basically what is the most commonly used library in machine learning everywhere, because it's so easy to use that even if you don't have experience in programming before, I bet you'll be able to use it. That's why some of these workshops are. But theoretically, if you want to make your own thing for the AI, as long as it is AI and it fits under the theme written in the stars, we'll allow it and you can submit it. But generally, we're making neural networks in PyTorch. But that's up to you how you want to do it. If you want to do it your own way. But at the workshops, we're going to be teaching you how to make a neural network in PyTorch, if that makes sense. Any questions about this? Like the logistics stuff? Okay, so we had a brainstorm about written in the stars, right? So you guys might have some ideas about, okay, what is an AI I can make under this theme, written in the stars, right? And that could be related, again, just to written or to stars or to whatever. So now you think about this idea. Now we need to evaluate, okay, can we actually make an AI from this idea? And to make that decision, you don't need to understand super well how an AI works, but you do need to understand one thing about AIs, which is that they take a lot of data. So somewhere on the order of several hundreds at least to probably thousands. So in terms of how the machine learning model, why does it need all that data? Is because that's actually exactly how it learns to do these things, right? If you think of a regular kind of programming problem, or even just a problem in general, AIs are trying to predict something, right? If you're programming something to predict something, let's say you're predicting, like I give you a sequence of numbers. It's like 2, 4, 8, 16, 32. What's the next number? Just pull it out. 64. Great job. You guys predicted the next number in the series, right? You gave an input, 32, and you know the output is now 64. So in that case, the output was pretty easy, right? It was just multiplied by 2. I can write that rule down in one line. But the issue, what machine learning is good at is, what if we can't write down all the rules? There might be thousands and thousands of rules. Like for a picture of a dog, right? And you're saying, is this a picture of a dog or is this a picture of a cat? You can't just write down a rule like, oh, if there's a brown pixel here, this is a dog. That obviously wouldn't work because in a different picture of a cat, there could be a brown pixel there, right? The amount of rules they need to do with like, okay, there has to be a shape like this, like this, like this. It can be rotated like this, like this. How do you even calculate those rotations? There's so many rules that it's better to do what's called machine learning, which is what we're teaching you, where you provide a bunch of data of pictures of dogs and it says, okay, this is a dog. Pictures of cat and it says, okay, this is a cat. And now it can look at all those pictures and it will learn what the differences are and how to compare them. In the later lectures, we'll go over how you can program that it will actually learn. And with the PyTorch library, it's much easier and it's super like abstracted away that you don't need to really do that much. And it can kind of do it on its own. But basically, when there's so many rules like that, it has to learn from data. But that means that data has to actually encapsulate all the possibilities. If you only have photos of dogs that are like, I don't know, facing the camera this way, let's say, it won't be able to tell apart dogs that are like, I don't know, sideways or something like that. The data needs to represent all the possibilities that you want to capture. Another example is the temperature, like predicting the temperature tomorrow. Like what meteorologists have been working for like 100 years to try to figure out how to predict the temperature tomorrow. And they've made a bunch of rules about like hydrodynamic, for fluid dynamics, like temperature, pressure systems, the sun, the atmosphere, all those rules. And that's like thousands of rules, right? What people are trying to do now is use machine learning, like AI, where you have a bunch of data about, okay, what's the weather today? Let's predict the temperature tomorrow. And we can record that for, let's say, I don't know, 1,000 days, which we've done. And now our model can learn, oh, I see that like when these factors are here, it will learn that the output should be this temperature. But to be able to learn, again, it needs lots and lots of examples to learn from, and it needs to be labeled. So what labeled means is it needs to have the actual correct outcome. So if in the picture example of dogs and cats, you need to feed a picture of dog, and then you need to say, this is a picture of a dog, because it won't know at the start. It's still learning. So you need the image, which is a picture of a dog, and then you need the label, which is dog. In case of the temperature example, that would be all the current weather factors, the humidity, the pressure, whatever. And then the label is the temperature the next day, if that kind of makes sense. In terms of the data format, there's a lot of different types of AI models, right? You're predicting stuff that's super general. So in your idea, you need to think about what is the format of the data. And I'd say there's 2 data formats that are pretty easy. The most easy for sure is numbers in, numbers out. So in terms of maybe the temperature predictor, you're putting in humidity, pressure, I don't know, temperature, sunlight, whatever, a bunch of numbers. And then the output is also a number, which is, I don't know, the temperature or some other factor, right? That's very easy for a neural network to understand. And also there's usually not that many inputs, right? Like in that case, it's like 10 inputs. Maybe you could think of like 20 or 30, but really that's not big on the grand scale of things. In terms of images are a little bit harder because images, even a very small image, let's say your image is only 100 pixels, right, wide and tall. That's still 100 times 100, 10,000 pixels. And each pixel as a number is RGB. So really there's 30,000 inputs compared to earlier when I was talking about the temperature, I listed like 10 inputs. So images are a lot more data. So that makes them inherently more difficult to process. Luckily with images, and I'm going to talk about this later, there are special algorithms you can use that kind of help make the neural network understand an image kind of more like how we humans understand it and kind of condense only the relevant information from an image. So it's not as complicated as it sounds, but it is a little bit of a wrinkle on top that you might need to consider when you're doing images. Another data format that's more complicated even than image, which might surprise you, is text. You might think, oh, there's only 26 letters in the alphabet, but really, AIs are pretty bad at understanding just, okay, this number represents the letter A, this number represents the letter B. Because really, when you're typing, you're not thinking about the individual letters, right? You're thinking about words. And there are thousands of words, and each word has several meanings, and it has a completely different meaning depending on the order and depending on how it's used and stuff like that. So basically, understanding the meaning of a sentence can be very difficult, and it's still an active area of research. If you've ever seen ChatGPT, right, it uses what's called tokens, right? You've seen ChatGPT. I don't know if you've seen like how you pay for ChatGPT. Well, those tokens are exactly where it's converting the text into numbers, where basically each word or every subsection of a word is a number, and then it processes it as a number actually. So that's why it's kind of like taking the text and then you need to somehow analyze the meaning of the text into a number. And analyzing the meaning of a text can be kind of difficult. But that depends again on what you're doing with the text and what meaning you're trying to analyze. If your meaning doesn't have to be super specific, or it could just be like a frequency of words, it is very possible. In fact, there's something called naive Bayes, if you want to just classify like what is the kind of intention behind, like what is the category of text, which I was talking about earlier, like spam or not spam, rather than the specific meaning of individual words. In terms of data format, I would also say for like numbers, so data points, I would say those are usually in the CSV format. So try to look for CSVs online. You might search for people who have made a data set specifically for machine learning. There's tons of those. But if you want to do it something more interesting and specific, you might have to try to see if people online have kind of posted information and you can compile it into a data set. I wouldn't advise making your own data set like manually, because you'd have to do it for like thousands and thousands of things, which probably will be frustrating. So maybe now you have an idea of like, okay, I need a data set, it needs to be big. I have an idea of, okay, is my problem kind of images, or is it text, or is it numbers? And that might give you an idea of how difficult it is. Another thing you need to consider is, what is your AI doing? And there's basically two things I would say an AI should do, especially for a beginner project, which is either regression or classification. So those might sound like complicated words, but really regression just means it's choosing a number in a range. And that range can be infinity if it needs to be. But in terms of temperature, that's a regression. It's choosing 84 degrees, or maybe it outputs 70 degrees, or maybe 100 degrees. Maybe it outputs 85.692 degrees, right? It can output anything in the range. It's just outputting a number. Classification is more specific, where you're choosing out of a set subset, which is, in this case, it's classifying, is this a picture of a dog, a cat, or a fish? So it can't choose just any number. It chooses cat, dog, or fish. Technically, maybe we'll talk about this later, all neural networks are actually doing regression, and classification is just a way that you adapt regression to be into classification, but we'll talk more about that later. Just know that these two are probably what your AIs are going to be doing. It's pretty simple. It's much simpler to implement these. And really, whenever you see an implementation of an AI, it's actually just doing one of these, but just somehow maybe reformatted or restructured. And maybe you can think about creative ways that your problem can be rephrased as a regression or a classification problem. So think about your idea, right? Think about the theme written in the stars, an idea under this, again, any really broad general idea. Think about, are there data sets for this that are big and that are labeled, or can you find, like, I don't know, compile a data set? And whatever you're trying to do, is it regression or classification? Is it using images or numbers or text? And next thing. Try to talk to people next to you, maybe. I would recommend to make a team, because it just helps to maybe motivate you to complete this. And ask us for feedback. We're going to be walking around. I'm Anthony. Eric.
Eric.
Yeah, we're two officers in the club that are kind of going to walk around and maybe talk to you about what ideas you have, if we think it's feasible to do. And here are good places to look for data sets. I would especially recommend Kaggle has a lot of data sets that are kind of pre-made and they're super easy to load in. That being said, if you have a more specific idea, your idea might not be on Kaggle. So in that case, just Google like dataset for whatever. Or you can try these other three. This Google dataset search is an actual like feature. That's not like saying Google datasets, but there's actual Google product called Google Dataset Search. Or just type into Google datasets for whatever. Yeah. Any other questions? Otherwise, start talking to your neighbors. I'll be walking around. The people on Zoom, I might place into breakout rooms and then talk with you guys individually.
About this? Yeah. So yes, so I'm saying
Otherwise, it will be icing.
Sure, I don't know.